Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, July 18th. We have some hot weather coming to the I-95 corridor region, especially Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and even into the weekend. It looks like we'll have hot weather in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Temperatures during the afternoon hours over the next several days could rise well up into the 90s in some spots, and it looks like that could last right through the weekend, especially in the D.C. metro region. Some of the models actually have Sunday being a very hot day. A little too early to be too certain about that, but indeed, hot weather for the second half of the week for the I-95 corridor region. Still a chance of some late day and early evening showers and thunderstorms over the next couple of days, but most of the time will be rain-free. I thought we'd start off with a look at the tropics. We do now have a new tropical storm named Don in the Atlantic, and we'll take a look at that in a moment or two. First, I'd like to show the accumulated cyclone energy. This is put together by weatherbell.com, Weatherbell Analytics, and the accumulated cyclone energy is a nice thing to look at because it captures both the magnitude of a tropical system and the longevity of a tropical system. So it's a good way to measure basically hurricane activity or tropical storm activity in the Atlantic Ocean or anywhere around the world. And a couple things I want to point out. This is actually showing the ACE for all of 2017. First of all, on a global basis, we're below normal. This is the percentage of normal to the point where we are right now, July 18th. So only 54% of normal around the world. And a large part of that is a result of what happened during the tropical season in the southern hemisphere. That has really just ended as we ramp up here in the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere has pretty much ended its tropical cyclone season. Very mild this year. In fact, one of the lowest in the last 30 years or so in terms of ACE index. 48% of normal in the southern hemisphere. In the Atlantic, a little bit below normal, 74% of normal right now. Exactly normal would be 100% on this particular table. It's still early, and I expect some ramping up over the next several weeks. Probably still thinking of a nearly normal type of season here in the Atlantic Basin. But certainly the southern hemisphere, quite interesting. Their season ended well below normal, and we're off to a kind of a slow start as well here in the Atlantic Basin. Well, this particular graphic comes from NOAA's Hurricane Center. Two waves now to look at. One, in fact, became Tropical Storm Don overnight right here, situated right here. It's sustained winds at 50 miles per hour. It's generally moving in a west fashion here at 16 knots. Should enter the Caribbean over the next several hours. Prospects are not too good. It looks like it's relatively weak right now, and it doesn't exactly look like it'll strengthen over the next day or two. We'll continue to watch it. There's another wave out here over the central part of the tropical Atlantic. It has a medium chance, according to NOAA's Hurricane Center, of developing into a tropical storm. So nothing really to write home about it. Again, we now have Tropical Storm Don, and we'll, of course, monitor that over the next couple of days. Prospects are not looking too good for Don right at the moment. Well, let's take a look at the visible satellite imagery loop from the overnight hours. So there are some frames here where it's dark, but here is Don now, right here, approaching the Windward Islands right here. Again, it has reached tropical storm status, expected to move into the Caribbean Sea, certainly if it only if it survives, of course, over the next several hours, but it probably will as a weak tropical storm. Again, prospects are not all that favorable for Don right now, but at least we have a tropical storm. There's another wave behind it. One of the things that has been happening over the last few weeks is we've had a lot of dust moving off the west coast of Africa into the heart of the Atlantic. That tends to be dry air and tends to be an inhibitor for Atlantic Basin tropical storm development or intensification. So as long as that pattern continues, we'll probably stay below normal in the Atlantic Basin. Again, a lot of Saharan desert dust or dry air pushing off the west coast of Africa from the east to the west. into the tropical Atlantic, and that has been quite an inhibiting factor over the past couple of weeks. Well, in terms of the local weather, let's just take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern from the GFS ensemble run of last night, 6Z, and it kind of tells the story as to why we certainly look like we'll have a hot second half of the week throughout much of the eastern U.S., including the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor. This is the way the upper air pattern looks right now. A little bit of a wave in the upper part of the atmosphere along the East Coast, helping to destabilize the atmosphere yesterday afternoon, and it likely will again this afternoon. Liable to be some shower and thunderstorm activity during the mid and late afternoon hours in the I-95 corridor, perhaps into the early evening hours. Certainly not a widespread event, but we'll monitor that over the next few hours. But as we push forward in 6-hour increments, that trough just virtually disappears, and what ultimately happens is high pressure region indicated on these particular maps in orange will pretty much set up over the northeastern part of the country. Here we are now by later tomorrow, and again, high temperatures later tomorrow should be well up in the 90s in D.C., probably as high as the mid-90s in Philadelphia. Wednesday afternoon we're talking about in 90 to 93, let's say, in the New York City metro region. That wave continues to weaken as it slowly pulls to the east. High pressure region dominating the mid-Atlantic region. Thursday, quite hot day indeed. And here we are now Friday afternoon, pretty much high pressure region sitting over the I-95 corridor. Friday looks like a very hot day, well up in the 90s across the I-95 corridor. Nice cool air mass, but it stays well up into Canada. It looks like maybe the northern part of New England will get a nice break in the action as we head into the weekend. This is late Friday night time frame. Still high pressure region sitting right on top of the I-95 corridor region. And again, here we are Saturday afternoon. Looks like relatively hot day, maybe 90 degrees in Philadelphia, New York City, in the 90s in D.C., and that high pressure region just sticks around right into the day on Sunday. In fact, some models have high temperatures in the 95 to 100 degree range on Sunday. Still not 100% guaranteed, certainly by any means. With all this upper level trough over the southeastern part of the Canada, I wouldn't go out on the limb right now and say 100 degrees on Sunday, but it potentially could be quite hot going into the weekend, including the day on Sunday in the D.C. to New York City corridor, and certainly hot Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that's it for now. For VencoreWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.